Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. My name is Kristen Smith, Pennsylvania editor with the Center Square. And joining me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania reporter, Anthony Hennin. Anthony, this week you reported about a bill that would make some crucial updates to Pennsylvania's medical marijuana program. Right now, there is some concern from lawmakers about the program's impact on Second Amendment rights, given that medical marijuana, although lawfully used by cardholders in the state, does brush up against current laws for gun ownership. So will you take us through this bill?
Yeah, so for several years, we've had a medical marijuana program in the Commonwealth, but the problem is you still have a few paradoxes with state law, where though medical marijuana is legal, having a card identifies you as a unlawful drug user, according to how the state defines it around Second Amendment laws. So the biggest show of this was last month, actually, when Warren County District Attorney Rob Green announced that he has a medical marijuana card and he supports marijuana legalization due to laws surrounding gun ownership in Pennsylvania. The county sheriff was required to confiscate Green's license to carry a firearm. So this has kind of been a problem in the background. That's been one of them. Another problem has been that medical marijuana users are potentially liable to get charged for DUI, even though they're not necessarily impaired, simply because how the law works, traces of medical marijuana can stay in a person's system for weeks. So if they, say, smoke on a Friday night and then they drive to work on Monday, they're not inebriated or high, but they can still be charged with a DUI. So there's been a few lingering state issues that's kind of put people off on actually getting medical marijuana, even if they think it might be able to treat them. So in the Senate, Dan Laughlin, who's a Republican out of Erie, basically wants to clarify in the law that medical marijuana card holders are not unlawful users and therefore should not be restricted on gun ownership. Laughlin said, I've had a lot of people tell me that the reason they aren't comfortable with getting a medical marijuana card is because they're gun owners. And he said he felt it was important to clarify this in the law and hopefully, work things out to make things a little smoother. The irony in all this, of course, is especially if you're up around Erie or a lot of other parts of the Commonwealth, you could just drive half an hour or an hour and buy recreational marijuana legally. So it kind of puts Pennsylvania residents in an odd position, and it also puts medical marijuana as a program in a weird position.
That begs the question is if there was a change to recreational use laws in Pennsylvania or even federally, would that cure this issue?
Sort of, I think, is the best answer here. Again, I think some people who are very worried about, potentially breaking a gun law would avoid the entire situation. That puts people off. But at least on the state level, that could add some clarification here where, they will not be punished in the form of a restriction on their Second Amendment rights for using marijuana, be it medical or recreational, if we would get a larger statewide legalization law. But a lot of this is just federal barriers really complicate this. Because even though we've seen dozens of states now legalize marijuana recreationally, the federal restrictions that call marijuana a Schedule I drug rather than a Schedule II or III drug or something else, that kind of limits some issues. One of the big ones has been marijuana companies having banking access or access to the banking system. A lot of places are very risk averse in this, and banks simply will not take on those companies. So I think, overall, some state law changes will alleviate some of this issue, but this state versus federal legality versus prohibition does complicate these things.
Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. For Anthony Hennin, I'm Kristen Smith. Please subscribe and thanks for listening.
Learn from creative experts. At Skillshare, classes are taught by industry leaders excited to share their tools, techniques, and professional journeys with you. Follow the link in our show description to join Skillshare today and get 1 month free.